The year I turned 6, my world was a kaleidoscope of color and possibility. Every surface was a canvas, every moment an inspiration. I wasn't just a child, I was a conduit for something larger, a tiny vessel overflowing with an insatiable urge to create. My parents, gentle souls who ran a small bookstore, nurtured this burgeoning passion with a quiet, unwavering devotion. They didn't understand the depths of it, not truly, but they understood that it was essential to who I was. They bought me endless supplies, tubes of vibrant oil paints, crisp canvases, a dizzying array of brushes that felt like extensions of my own fingers. The scent of linseed oil and turpentine became my childhood perfume. The rhythmic scrape of a palette knife against wood, my lullaby. My name is Alara, and this is the story of a painting, a betrayal, and a vengeance that simmered for decades. I remember the day I started Whispers of Dawn with startling clarity. It was a crisp autumn morning, the kind where the air itself feels painted with gold and amber. We were visiting my grandmother's cottage in the countryside, a place steeped in ancient trees, and a river that flowed with the secrets of centuries. I sat by the window, a small easel before me, watching the sunrise filter through the mist-shrouded woods. The light was ethereal, a soft, blushing pink giving way to hues of lavender and pale gold. It wasn't just light, it was a feeling, a promise. And I, with the innocent arrogance of a child prodigy, knew I had to capture it. I dipped my brush, a fine sable, into a dollop of cadmium yellow, then a whisper of rose madder. The canvas, a modest 24 by 36 inches, seemed to hum with anticipation. Hours melted away. My small hands worked with a speed and precision that belied my age. I wasn't thinking, I was simply doing. The forest floor, a tapestry of moss and fallen leaves, the ancient oak trees with their gnarled branches reaching for the heavens, the elusive deer peeking through the fog. It all poured onto the canvas, infused with an almost mystical quality. But the true magic, the heart of the painting, was the light. I layered the colors, thin glazes building depth, capturing the way the dawnlight seemed to breathe, to shift, to whisper secrets only the forest could hear. I even incorporated a tiny, almost imperceptible detail, a small 3-leaf clover, my secret good luck charm, hidden in the bottom left corner, beneath a cluster of painted ferns, rendered in a slightly different shade of green, visible only upon close inspection. When I finally stepped back, my small body aching, but my spirit soaring, the painting was complete. It wasn't just a landscape, it was a captured dream, a moment of pure transcendence. My parents were awestruck. My mother's eyes welled up. "Alara," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. It's magnificent." My father, a man of few words, simply nodded, a profound admiration in his gaze. They hung it in our living room, a beacon of my burgeoning talent, a testament to what a child could achieve when unburdened by self-doubt or cynicism. Friends and family who visited would gasp, marveling at the maturity of the brushstrokes, the emotional resonance of the piece. They couldn't believe a 6-year-old had created such a work, but I had, and I knew it. Our little bookstore, Pages and Palettes, became a local hub, not just for books, but for glimpses of my art. It was there, amidst the comforting scent of old paper and fresh coffee, that Arthur Sterling found us. He was a man of impeccable taste, or so he presented himself. Tall, with a neatly trimmed silver beard, and eyes that sparkled with what seemed like genuine interest. He introduced himself as an art dealer and critic of some repute. He spoke with a cultivated air, dropping names of galleries and artists, his voice a smooth, persuasive balm. He spent hours in our living room, gazing at Whispers of Dawn, his expression a mixture of awe and shrewd calculation. He praised my technique, my unique vision, my innate understanding of light and shadow, using words I barely understood but instinctively recognized as important. "This child, Alara," he purred to my parents, his gaze never leaving my painting, She is a phenomenon, a prodigy of the highest order. This work, it's not just good for a 6-year-old. It's good, period. It belongs in a major collection, not a family living room. He spoke of opportunities, of exhibitions, of a future where my name would be synonymous with artistic genius. My parents, innocent and eager to provide me with every advantage, were utterly captivated. They saw him as a benevolent mentor, a gateway to a world they knew nothing about. I, however, felt a prickle of unease. His smiles didn't quite reach his eyes, and there was a predatory hunger in his gaze when he looked at my painting, a hunger that had nothing to do with art and everything to do with acquisition. Over the next few months, Arthur became a frequent visitor. He brought me expensive art books, spoke to me about composition and color theory, and made me feel like an equal, a fellow artist. He slowly gained my parents' complete trust. Then came the proposition. I've secured a spot for Ilara's painting in a prestigious exhibition in New York, he announced one evening, his voice brimming with feigned excitement. It's a unique opportunity, a chance for her work to be seen by the most influential figures in the art world. But there's a small formality. To be taken seriously, especially for such a young artist, the work needs to be presented under a more established name, initially. A placeholder, you understand, just for this one exhibition. Once it gains traction, we can reveal Ilara's true identity. My parents hesitated. I, even at 6, felt a cold dread. But it's my painting, I piped up, my voice small. Arthur chuckled, a condescending sound. Of course it is, my dear, and everyone will know it eventually. Think of it as a stepping stone, a strategic move. He wove a convincing tale of the cutthroat art world, of the need for professional gatekeepers, of how a child's name might unfortunately lead to dismissal. He promised my parents a percentage of the sale, a substantial sum that would secure my future art education. He even produced a contract, a complex legal document filled with jargon my parents didn't fully grasp, but which, to their trusting eyes, seemed legitimate. They signed it, their hearts full of hope for my future, their minds blinded by Arthur's polished lies. I watched, a silent scream building in my throat, as they handed over whispers of dawn to the man who would steal my very identity. The painting disappeared. Weeks turned into months. Arthur's calls became less frequent, his explanations more evasive. The exhibition, he claimed, was delayed. Then it was postponed indefinitely. Finally, the truth, brutal and undeniable, crashed down on us. My father, worried, had made inquiries through a distant acquaintance in the New York art scene. Whispers of Dawn had indeed been exhibited, but not as Ilara's. It was displayed as an early masterpiece by Arthur Sturman himself, titled Morning Reverie, touted as a testament to his own precocious talent. He had woven a narrative of his own impoverished but artistically rich childhood, claiming he had painted it at the tender age of 10. The art world, hungry for a new sensation, had swallowed his story whole. The painting had sold for an astronomical sum to a private collector, and Arthur Sterling was now hailed as a rising star. My parents were devastated, their trust shattered, their hearts broken for their little girl. They tried to fight. They consulted lawyers, but Arthur, with his carefully worded contract and his newfound wealth, had covered his tracks. The contract, they discovered, had subtly transferred ownership, and without tangible proof of my authorship, beyond their word, it was a losing battle. The lawyers advised them to let it go, warning them that fighting a powerful, connected figure like Arthur Sterling would only bring them financial ruin and public ridicule. "It's just a painting, Ilara," my mother wept, holding me close, her voice choked with guilt. "We can make more. You can make more." But it wasn't just a painting. It was my soul, my first true expression, stolen and attributed to a charlatan. The injustice burned a hole in my innocent heart, a wound that would never truly heal. I became quieter, the vibrant colors of my inner world muted by a growing shadow of resentment. The joy of creation was tainted by the memory of theft. I still painted, but the effortless flow of my early years was replaced by a grim determination, a silent promise to myself that one day I would reclaim what was mine. Years passed. The art world, fickle as ever, continued to sing Arthur Sterling's praises. He churned out mediocre landscapes and portraits, each one meticulously marketed, each one riding the wave of his fabricated early genius. Morning Reverie, my Whispers of Dawn, became his signature piece, the cornerstone of his fabricated legacy. It was reproduced in art books, discussed in documentaries, and admired by critics who lauded its childlike wonder and profound insight, unwittingly praising the very child he had wronged. I grew up, a ghost in my own artistic narrative. I went to art school, but not to flaunt my talent. I went to learn. I devoured art history, forensic art analysis, even intellectual property law. I studied the techniques of forgery, the subtle ways artists leave their marks, the science of pigment and canvas aging. I learned about provenance, about the paper trails of art, about the meticulous detective work required to authenticate a piece. My professors saw a brilliant, driven student, but they didn't know the true fire that fueled my ambition. I painted under a pseudonym, E. Thorne, developing a style vastly different from my childhood work, abstract, conceptual, challenging. I built my own reputation, slowly, deliberately, but always with the stolen masterpiece lurking in the shadows of my mind. The weight of the secret, the simmering anger, was a constant companion. It honed my senses, sharpened my intellect. I visited galleries where Sterling's work was displayed, my stomach clenching as I saw my own stolen genius paraded under his name. I studied his later works, noting their stylistic inconsistencies, their lack of the raw emotional power that defined Whispers of Dawn. I knew, with absolute certainty, that no man could possess such a radical shift in artistic voice without a clear explanation. His prodigy piece stood out like a beacon of truth amidst his later, more conventional, and frankly, less inspired output. My revenge would not be hasty. It would be a symphony, meticulously composed, each note perfectly placed. I spent years gathering evidence. I found old photographs of me as a child, standing proudly next to Whispers of Dawn in our living room, my small hand pointing at the hidden clover. I sought out my childhood art teacher, a kind woman who remembered my unique artistic quirks, my specific way of blending colors, my signature brushwork. She had kept some of my early sketches, simple line drawings that already showed the nascent talent that would explode onto the canvas of Whispers of Dawn. I even tracked down the original art supply store my parents frequented, confirming their purchases of the specific brands and colors of paint I used for that piece, paints that were uncommon for a child of my age, but which Sterling never used in his later works. But the most crucial piece of evidence, the one that would break Sterling's carefully constructed facade, was the hidden clover. I had painted it with a specific pigment, a rare blend of viridian green and a touch of cerulean blue, a shade I had custom mixed for that particular effect. It was a detail so small, so personal, that only the true artist would know of its existence and its exact location. Arthur Sterling, for all his bluster, would never have noticed it, let alone replicated it. My opportunity finally arrived 25 years after the theft. The prestigious Galleria d'Arte in Milan announced a grand retrospective of Arthur Sterling's career, celebrating his supposed 30 years of artistic brilliance. The centerpiece, naturally, was Morning Reverie, prominently displayed, lauded as the genesis of his genius. This was it. This was my stage. I arrived at the gallery on the opening night, not as Ilara, but as E. Thorne, a respected, if somewhat enigmatic, abstract artist, invited for my supposed contributions to contemporary art. I wore a tailored suit, my hair pulled back severely, my expression carefully neutral. My heart, however, hammered a frantic rhythm against my ribs. The air was thick with the scent of expensive perfume, champagne, and the nervous chatter of the art elite. I mingled, exchanging polite pleasantries, my eyes scanning the room, searching for the man who had stolen my childhood. There he was, Arthur Sterling, older, his silver beard now fully white, his eyes still holding that same calculating glint, but softened by years of undeserved success. He was surrounded by admirers, basking in the glow of their adulation, accepting their compliments with practiced humility. He looked utterly content, utterly untouchable. I made my way through the crowd, a silent predator stalking its prey. I approached the gallery owner, a stern-faced woman named Signora Rossi, known for her impeccable reputation and her fierce protection of her gallery's integrity. She recognized me as E. Thorne, offering a polite, if somewhat reserved, greeting. I returned it, then turned my gaze to the painting that hung majestically on the wall, bathed in a soft spotlight. My Whispers of Dawn. My heart ached, a bittersweet pang of longing and righteous fury. "Signora Rossi," I said, my voice calm, almost conversational, though every nerve ending in my body screamed. "This painting, Morning Reverie, it's a remarkable piece." She nodded, a flicker of pride in her eyes. "Indeed, Miss Thorne, a true masterpiece from Sterling's early period. It set the stage for his entire career." I took a deep breath, the moment I had waited for, planned for, lived for, finally here. "Sir, this painting, I painted it when I was 6 years old." The silence that followed was immediate, deafening. Signora Rossi blinked, her composure momentarily faltering. Her eyes, initially dismissive, narrowed into sharp slits. "That's impossible," she said, her voice laced with incredulity, then suspicion. "This is a confirmed work by Arthur Sterling, painted when he was 10. It's been authenticated, published, celebrated for decades." She looked at me as if I were a madwoman, an attention seeker trying to undermine a celebrated artist. A few nearby guests, drawn by the sudden tension, turned their heads, their murmurs dying down. Arthur Sterling, who had been laughing boisterously across the room, suddenly went still. His head snapped towards us, his eyes locking onto mine. For a fleeting second, I saw a flicker of recognition, a ghost of fear in their depths. He knew. He knew who I was, and he knew what I was about to do. "Impossible?" I repeated, a small, knowing smile playing on my lips. "Perhaps, but truth often defies convenience, doesn't it? Signora, may I approach the painting more closely?" Signora Rossi, despite her skepticism, was a professional. The sheer audacity of my claim, delivered with such quiet confidence, compelled her to allow it. She nodded curtly. I walked towards the painting, the weight of 25 years of injustice propelling me forward. Arthur Sterling, now pale, began to move towards us, his jovial mask slipping, revealing the fear beneath. "Nonsense," he blustered, his voice cracking. "This woman is delusional, an imposter. She's trying to discredit me, to steal my legacy." I ignored him, my gaze fixed on the canvas. I pointed to the bottom left corner, to the cluster of painted ferns. "Signora, Mr. Sterling, if you would kindly observe this particular spot, do you see it? A small 3-leaf clover, almost hidden, rendered in a slightly different shade of green?" Signora Rossi leaned in, her eyes scrutinizing the area. A gasp escaped her lips. "There is, indeed, a clover. I've never noticed it before. It's so subtle." Arthur Sterling stumbled forward, his face ashen. It's merely a stylistic choice, an artistic flourish," he stammered, his voice losing its persuasive charm, replaced by desperation. "A stylistic choice that only the true artist would know to place there," I countered, my voice cutting through his feeble protest. "And painted with a very specific, custom-mixed pigment, viridian green with a touch of cerulean blue, a blend I created at 6 years old because I wanted the clover to shimmer with a unique, almost magical light." I then presented my evidence. I have photographs, Signora, taken in my parents' living room showing me, a 6-year-old child, standing beside this very painting, pointing to that very clover. I have sworn affidavits from my childhood art teacher detailing my unique brushwork and color choices and my specific artistic development during that period. I have receipts from my parents' art supply store proving the purchase of these precise pigments and canvases long before Mr. Sterling ever claimed this work as his own. The gallery was now completely silent. Every eye was on me, then on Sterling, then back to the painting. The murmurs began again, this time not of admiration, but of shock and disbelief. Arthur Sterling stood frozen, his face a mask of horror, his carefully constructed world crumbling around him. He tried to speak, but only a choked gurgle escaped his lips. Furthermore, I continued, my voice rising, carrying across the stunned room, I have forensic analysis reports, authenticated by experts, confirming the age of the paint layers and the distinct artistic hand that created this piece, a hand inconsistent with Mr. Sterling's documented works from that period, but perfectly consistent with the early works of a child prodigy. I paused, letting the full weight of my words sink in. Morning Reverie is a lie. This painting is Whispers of Dawn, and it is mine. I painted it when I was 6 years old. Signora Rossi, a woman of unshakable integrity, looked from the painting to Arthur Sterling, then to me, her face a storm of realization and outrage. The truth, stark and undeniable, was laid bare. She turned to Sterling, her voice cold as ice. Mr. Sterling, I believe you have some explaining to do, not to me, but to the entire art world. The revelation was a seismic shock. News spread like wildfire. The art critics who had once lauded Arthur Sterling now tore him apart. The documentaries that celebrated him were re-edited, his name stripped from the credits, replaced with a scathing exposé. The collectors who had paid millions for his work felt cheated, their investments tainted by fraud. His entire career, built on a foundation of stolen genius, collapsed into ignominy. He became a pariah, his name synonymous with deceit and artistic theft. As for me, Ilara, the artist formerly known as E. Thorne, I finally reclaimed my legacy. Whispers of Dawn was returned to its rightful owner. The story of the 6-year-old prodigy whose masterpiece was stolen and then dramatically reclaimed became a legend in the art world. My other works, previously known as E. Thorne's, were now attributed to Ilara, and my true artistic journey from childhood wonder to adult mastery was finally complete. The wound in my heart, the one that had festered for decades, finally began to heal. The colors of my world, once muted by injustice, flared to life again, brighter and more vibrant than ever before. The revenge was sweet, yes, but the reclamation of my truth, my identity, my art, that was the true masterpiece.